How's it going, guys? So it's been about 1 year, just over a year, since we started using our automatic feeding system. Just an overview of what we put in. So Lely Vector, we have 2 mixing feeding robots. So that one's parked in the loading area. The other one is out running a batch of feed out right now. We have a second charge station here. Feeding a 200 cow milking herd, as well as the dry cows and all the young stock. It's about 150 heifers or so, right around 350 animals. We set it up with upright silos, and we actually had to build those all last year if you've seen the videos, but we transitioned from flat storage in concrete bunker silos. Going over why we did that before, but those were needing some work. We needed to redo the floors before they broke down too bad. We needed to make them larger just to hold our corn silage, and we didn't have any space to store our winter forage, so we were thinking about different options for that. Decided to go ahead and build upright silos because of how well we felt they fit with automatic feeding. Just the fact that the robot can send a signal, turn the silo unloader on, just runs it out at a nice even pace, and that's really worked out well. We've been happy with that decision. Definitely added some cost to the setup, that's for sure. So yeah, we have the 3 tower silos. They come in through the 3 conveyors. We have a separate conveyor for each silo. Kind of looks unorganized in here because everything's coming in at a different angle, but it is really the most efficient way to move feed from the silos. You have one straight line conveyor. When a silo is running, you're just running that straight distance to the mixer. Everything else is off. We had considered, one big cross conveyor outside and then have one coming through the wall. With something like that, then we would have to have everything running all the time. Even if you're loading feed from real close by, you have this big conveyor running. Silos are top unload. They're 24-foot diameter, 132 feet tall. They're ring drive top unloaders. They're throwing the feed out down the chute, falling down into these conveyors. So 2 of the silos get corn silage in the fall, and then we're filling 1 in the spring with winter forage, or 1.5, making sure we're feeding out that half before we get to the fall so it's empty for corn silage again. Had to take a little break here, but now we got both robots. One's actually heading out with a batch of feed. The 2 mixing feeding robots are never out at one time. It works out pretty well. One can be loading while the other one's running feed out, and by the time the one gets back, the other one's ready to leave with a batch of feed. It takes about the same amount of time, about 20 minutes to run a route and 20 minutes to mix a batch. Some of the batches are a little bit quicker depending on the size of them. For our commodity ingredients, we were in a commodity shed that we were loading with the skid loader. Now we moved to these poly grain bins from Bulk Tech. These have worked out pretty well for us. Then we have flex augers running through the other room up above, dropping down into the mixer there. The nice thing with these is you can see through them. It's easy to see when the feed level's getting low, when I need to order feed. Depending on how the sun is angled. Right now it's hard to see, especially in the mornings. You got the morning sun coming across, you can easily tell the feed height. These worked out well. We actually did start getting a leak in our supplement line right there at the top of that bend. After 1 year, it already started to wear through, so we're gonna have to put a new elbow there and maybe drop it down a little bit so it's not as sharp of a bend. I think with all the mineral running in it, there's just a little bit more friction, and we run about 1 ton through it every day, so it runs for quite a few minutes a day. Yeah, so now in this room we have molasses that gets pumped in, a couple small bins for heifer and dry cow mineral. The milk and cow mineral is all mixed into a supplement with our soybean meal in the first bin out there, but we needed some small bins for minerals for the batches that don't need a supplement, don't get a lot of grain. It's just basically forages and then some mineral. And then we do feed some dry hay or straw chopped up. We fill this wagon. This has worked out pretty well for us. A forage box that we flipped around, push it in here with the skid loader, and so we just have to unplug it and pull it out. Works out. We fill it about twice a week currently. Depending on what type of corn silage we're feeding, we need less of it if we're feeding a non-BMR silage. Right now we're feeding some good BMR, so we need a little bit more fiber, non-digestible fiber for some of the batches. So yeah, a couple jobs here that need to be done weekly, making sure we're paying attention, keeping those things filled. Early on, there was definitely a few things with the silos. There's a couple things with the robots themselves that needed to be adjusted. I would say it was pretty stressful for the first couple months, honestly, for me. Completely changing the way that we feed cows. So hoping everything would actually work, that the cows would react well to it. Now we've settled in quite a bit, we've learned a lot, and yeah, we feel really good about the system. Overall, the Lely Vector does its job. Right off the bat, there was a little bit of a software glitch. They got that sorted out. We haven't had any issues with that now for 10 months or something. Yeah, a couple other things. So I don't want to say that it's been perfect, that we haven't gotten any calls or anything. We've definitely had quite a few calls from different things. The robots would have issues here and there. The silos, we've had some different issues with. The winter forage has been the most challenging in the silos. We got it in plenty dry now 2 years in a row. We had some issues with gumming. We had to take water up some last year. Now this year we haven't had any trouble with that, but with how dry we got it in, it isn't blowing out of the silo the best. We've had to make some adjustments to the fans, sped them up a little bit with different pulleys. We just had to learn how to manage that. Gonna try to get the feed in a little bit wetter this coming year. Our hay box, we had some trouble with that overflowing, had to adjust the funnel that it falls into. Yeah, we learned we need to make sure we chop the straw fine enough, especially if it's hay. That stuff tends to pile up and it can fall in, and a lot of these things have gotten a lot better. At first, going to bed knowing you got silo unloaders running and machines driving around would stress me out. I wasn't sleeping the best probably the first bit there, but now I don't worry about it. I know kind of what to expect. Seems like 95% or more of the times you get a call, it's something minor, just has to be adjusted or restarted. We have had very few major breakdowns. Probably the worst one, we had a conveyor chain on the big conveyor down to the third silo. The one night in the middle of the night, this was like 2 weeks in, we had reused the conveyor chain out of our old feed room and it snapped, shredded a bunch of chain, and my dad was actually away, so I was here. Had to get that all fixed up, get it working, just so I could go to bed for a little bit and get up to milk cows in a little. We ended up just replacing that whole chain, got some much higher quality chain. I do still get, I would say, a couple calls a week for whatever reason. There's a whole bunch of different things that can happen. If I had bins get empty or augers plug up. Robots, every once in a while there's an issue somewhere where they'll get lost, or the middle gate out in the barn, someone forgets to close that, or different things out there can cause us to have to restart them. There was a number of reasons that we were interested in looking at robot feeding and why we thought it would pencil out. The first thing was just the labor savings. My dad was doing a lot of the feeding before. He was doing probably 60 or 70% of it, and then I was doing the rest. We did have a couple part-time guys helping. We had been spending about 3.5 hours a day between feeding the milking cows twice and then the dry cows and the heifers. So that came out to around 25 hours a week, and now that's dropped down to probably 2 hours a week or so. It's a lot less work. It's not even every day. There's some days where I'm spending an hour, and then it goes a few days where I'm not even touching anything in here. Still need to have someone around here if there's an issue. The nice thing is, if they do go down for a few hours, they can easily get caught back up. We're not pushing them so hard that they're struggling to catch up if the cows are getting hungry. They're probably at 60 or 70% capacity, I would say. They could easily feed some more cows. Having one unit by itself would struggle and wouldn't be able to keep up. One thing with these Vectors that's really nice is they have this little laser down here, so they're going around pushing feed up and they're measuring the feed height as they go. I don't have to watch all the troughs and make sure we're adjusting the amount of feed going to every group. These are just feeding as the group needs feed. Whenever they eat it down, it'll mix more feed. I got in a comment a while back from someone that has a Vector, and they recommended we raise the feed height throughout the late afternoon or into the evening, so that way cows are kind of fed up going into the night. So we've been doing that for a while now, and that's really nice because I actually have it set. It doesn't even call me at night. If something does happen after 10 p.m. and I'm sleeping, it's not a big deal because there's feed in the troughs already, and I can just address it when I get up, and that's worked out really well. So my dad's kind of dropped down to halftime now. He's helping out more when we're busy, just around here helping with things that he enjoys doing. It's definitely nice having him around here. But yeah, at the same time, not needing him to be here feeding cows every morning. It's really nice for him. So another area that we were counting on some savings was just energy costs. Going from burning diesel, running the tractor and mixer and skid loader all the time, We've definitely seen a difference there. We're saving about 50 gallons of diesel a week. I mean, obviously we're still burning electricity to run these in here, but the Vectors are very efficient. Really hasn't been a noticeable increase in our electric costs, especially with the solar setup we have on the barn that kind of covers the electric we're using. So can't tell you the exact numbers on that. Try to dig into that a little bit more maybe at some point. Another area that we were counting on improving with this system was feed shrink. With the robot feeding throughout the day, every day, we're hoping to get better feed efficiency for one thing, which we think we've seen a little uptick in that, nothing major. We made the switch to not cleaning out the cow troughs every morning like we used to, cleaning them around once a week. Depends on the time of year. In the summer, a little bit more often. Most of the feed that's getting mixed up for milking cows, they're actually consuming. We're not cleaning it up and feeding it to the heifers like we used to, which I think is a benefit. And then mixing indoors like this, keeping all of our grains in the bins. They're being augured in very accurately, out of the wind. The birds aren't getting to the grain. Just things like that add up. We've been really happy with the mix accuracy. That comes down to the Vector itself, but also how the ingredients are entering. You know, if they're entering consistently, not too fast, that it's able to stop them off. We're running right about 98% accuracy on average. All the grain ingredients are at 99%. The forages, triticale would be the one that is 96, 97 usually. Silage is a little higher. Hey guys, so it's actually the next day. Gonna get back into this review here. See if I can remember where I was at. Just gonna talk about how the cows have reacted to the automatic feeding. So going into it, we hadn't really penciled in too much milk production increase. I didn't want to expect too much. It's easy to make things pencil out if you're expecting 2 or 3 pounds of milk. We were honestly just counting on half a pound of milk and hoping to see a little bit better feed efficiency, and we would have been happy with the results. It's a little bit hard to give a solid number because we've had a lot of changes, switching to the upright silos and feeding more non-BMR corn silage. We still have seen an improvement in milk production here in the last year versus the year before. I would feel pretty good about saying 2 pounds of energy corrected milk were up with the robot feeding. The idea is you're feeding more times throughout the day, keeping fresh feed in the trough, and the cows are not slug feeding. They're kind of eating smaller meals after every milking or whenever they want they can eat. But yeah, we're getting really good mix accuracy, and I think just the fact that it's feeding batches throughout the day, I mean, just because you put an accurate mix in the trough, you know, if it's sitting there for 12 hours, the cows are sorting through it. They might not be getting the same feed in every bite throughout that 12 hours. We were feeding twice a day before, and we had a Juno feed pusher, so we were going from a pretty decent system to the automatic feeding. That was why we weren't expecting to see a massive jump, but we are seeing a little bit more dry matter intake. The feed efficiency has, I would say, upticked a little bit. I think there's still some room for improvement as we figure out the best corn silage hybrids to grow. We averaged right around 7 pounds of components per cow per day for the last year here, which before that we had never averaged that. We had been up over that point at times during the peak of the year, but we would drop below that in the summer. Yeah, this past summer we stayed well above 4% fat. I don't think we got below a 4.2 or a 4.3, which is incredible through the summer months. So I would give some of the credit to the robot feeding, just having consistent fresh feed in the troughs. There was a little bit of a challenge, especially over the summer. You want to keep the troughs full so they can eat whenever they want, but at the same time, if you're not letting them eat it down, there's going to be some forage that sits there, especially in that back corner right underneath the headlock. So we've had to kind of play with the settings a little bit. Here in the late summer, we were running like a 4-hour span once a day in every group where we would lower the feed height. That way it wouldn't refeed as quick and they'd kind of eat it down. Trying to find a balance there so that they're actually eating everything every day. One thing that was really nice with the upright silos now, when we get a rain event, you know, in the bunkers outside, we get a lot of moisture in the feed. We would have to estimate, add extra pounds to try to get the right amount of dry matter, whereas now everything's indoors, out of the weather. It's a more consistent mix. So right now here going into the fall, we're actually feeding a BMR silage that we put on the top of the one silo. Cows are making 7.5, almost 7.6 pounds of components currently. So that's it's pretty incredible. Cows have been calving in really well. I'm really happy with the pre-fresh group. It's only 8 to 15 cows normally, and it works out really well with these small mixers. It can mix a nice accurate pre-fresh batch. I think we're doing a little bit better job than we were before. We always did a decent job, I guess. But so the one small bin there is our pre-fresh supplement. So that has some soybean meal and minerals. We're feeding a phosphorus binder to our pre-fresh, which we've been doing for a couple years. Seems to be working really well. We have very few fresh cow issues. I don't think we've had one fresh cow down with milk fever in over a year now. So I give some credit to the mixers. Probably the phosphorus binder in the pre-fresh mineral has been the biggest help on that. Yeah, cows are just getting off to a good start. I mean, we have some issues here and there still. Sometimes cows aren't cleaning right away for whatever reason. We had some trouble in the summer, retained placentas. I don't think we've operated on one cow in the last year either with a DA, or displaced abomasum, twisted stomach. There's some other things we're doing to help prevent that, I guess. We've never had a lot of issues with that, but I think we're just taking even a step forward in cow health. The idea is if the cows are eating smaller meals, the rumen's kind of staying consistent, they're not getting acidosis. Still struggle a little bit with some foot health issues. Not sure if that's the slatted floors in the barn or what, but still room for improvement, I think, on that a little bit. One thing that's been really nice, the system's constantly tracking dry matter intake on the cows. We know exactly how much they're eating. That helps with making the ration, being able to figure out feed efficiency, knowing actually how much the cows are eating. We did try to track that in the past when we were mixing. It wasn't quite as accurate. This way, it's always in the computer. We have data on every batch fed. And the biggest thing is I need to make sure the moisture levels are correct. The forages coming out of the silo, they can change. So just making sure we have the moisture accurate in the computer to what is actually coming out of the silos, because the system's not testing moisture levels on the forages. So if you have that accurate, then the dry matter intake's gonna be accurate. So we're feeding all of our heifers and dry cows with the system, and I think the dry cows are benefiting from having feed throughout the day as well. Those batches, we have more straw and more triticale winter forage going into those, which is pretty dry right now. We're learning we need to make sure we're paying attention how well those batches are mixing, especially when we make a ration change or something. If the mixer's getting too full, when you have longer, drier, stringy stuff, it doesn't seem to mix quite as well. Yeah, you definitely don't want it piled up to the top. Try to keep it maybe a foot below the top, especially for those batches with more dry material in them. It does a good job mixing, especially the dairy batches with more fine material, more corn silage. It's just we have to watch it with the dry stuff. We've been chopping the straw or the hay a little bit finer too. That seems to help make it mix a little bit better. One thing I've been learning is, it does a good job. It does what you tell it, but you do need to spend a little bit of time in here just watching it mix batches, making sure everything's actually doing what you want it to. Then once you have it set and working, you don't have to worry about it. It'll do the exact same thing every time. You set your post mix, it mixes that exact 10 minutes or 12 minutes. Different batches, we have different lengths, but it does that every single time. So it's more consistent than we used to be, and it's just steady. A couple things we would do different. If we did it again, this pathway out here, we didn't quite plan ahead as well as we should have. If you remember when we were putting this in, we realized we were a little too steep going up to the end of that barn. We had to come up along the side there and in through the side of that building. It's worked out okay. It just takes a little bit longer on every route. I guess a little more wear and tear on the machine. So yeah, I kind of wish we had planned out. We probably should have this pathway go a little more to the left, be a little bit higher so that we could come more straight across. As far as the snow in the winter, we were happy with how it dealt with the snow. I mean, we had a few issues here and there. We did have quite a few small ice storms and snowstorms. Anytime you have that, you gotta be paying attention a little bit. It seems like the turns are the biggest issue. We were setting the skirt to drop down like it does when it pushes feed. It was pushing the snow away. It was doing a pretty good job. Some of the turns, we had some issues. Just need to be around here and helping it a little bit when you have snow, but it does pretty much work. I have a feeling we're gonna have to make sure we keep good tires on it for the winter, especially for traction. Another thing we did have quite a few issues with is the garage doors. We have a garage door there, and then one on the end of the barn that it was using out in the big barn. We're finding that it's just a lot of cycles to have that door going up and down twice per route. It opens up when it goes in, closes, and then opens up again when it comes out. We put a new garage door there. The motor went bad in 6 months. They warrantied it and replaced it, and then it quit working again in another couple months. So it seems like the garage doors we have are not made to be going up and down that much. The one out in the big barn has given issues as well. It's currently not working. So I have the garage doors off right now. I have them out of the routes, so the robots don't even try and communicate with them. But we're getting into winter again, so I'm not sure They said they can get freezer strips and set those across your doorways, and then the robots can push through freezer strips. I think you have to get some sort of additional part for the front because you don't want them hitting the bumper. It might shut it down. I'm not sure, so kind of looking into that, but I kind of wish we wouldn't have spent the money trying to put the garage door controllers on it, or the effort, because it seems like the doors can't handle it. There is a box on here. It can communicate with this door and operate this one as well, but honestly, we've used it so little, I really don't think it's necessary to have that running either. As far as the feed room itself, we're really happy with the way we laid things out. I wouldn't have done too much different. The upright silos, I think, were the right decision for us. They're an overall positive. It's been a lot less work harvesting versus bunker silos, and I feel like the feed is cleaner. We're dealing with less waste, and they're just a good fit for the robot feeding. So would I recommend robot feeding for every dairy farm? I do think everyone should at least consider it. The Lely Vector, they're pretty flexible as far as setting them up. Like, every farm is a little bit different. I think the biggest question with robot feeding is just how you're going to deal with the forages. Tower silos are a great fit, but it's obviously not for everybody. You can do comm boxes that you're loading daily. What we're doing with our hay and straw, you can do with all your forage, but then you have that daily job of filling that box. Lely also has the grabber. You can get a block cutter for bunker silos and a grabber that picks feed up out of like a feed kitchen area. I know there's guys that have had success with those. For me, I wasn't afraid of upright silos. Rather than spending money on upgrading the bunker silos, getting a block cutter, then getting the grabber unit, we weren't spending a crazy amount more to put some silos up once you add all that together. With the upright silos, they're pretty easy to keep up with. I just have to climb up every other week to drop the corn silage unloader down. We can skip a door with the unloader in there, so we can go 8 foot per door change. That ends up being about 100 tons of feed per door change. They're 132 foot silos, but you're not climbing up to the top to change the door every time. It's working its way down. The bunker silos, we were cutting back 3 times a week. We had a fair bit of spoilage, especially over the summer, so we had to fork that off. You know, with silos, you're relying on that unloader. If it's not working, you can't get feed out. There's advantages and disadvantages. The winter forage silo, we can't skip a door because it doesn't shoot it out quite as well, but it lasts about 3 weeks because we don't feed it as much. Just wanted to mention, if you're interested in purchasing a Lely Vector, you can get a 5% discount associated with my channel. There's a link below you can check out, or if you tell your local Lely Center sales rep the code 10th Gen, they can get you that 5% discount as well. So, you know, I don't want to oversell these units, but I do think that they are legit. They're something that seems like a crazy idea the first time you see them, but they actually work. I do need to drop the silo unloaders down again, I'm noticing. So there's just a pause button right here on the side that you can pause the system at any time. Use your phone to connect to them to drive them around and stuff, which is fairly handy. You always have the controller on you then. One thing about this system, it gets pretty dusty in here. The straw is the worst. Some of the minerals as well. Just gave it a good cleaning before this video, but it's definitely something that needs to be kept up with to keep it looking half decent. Clean these guys off, they look a whole lot better than they did as well. Once this silo is done here, I'm going to go up and switch this unloader down. I'll show you how much work it really is. You can tell me what you think. So as far as the return on investment, we're expecting about 5 or 6 years for the robots themselves and the whole robot system, excluding the silos. That was figured with about half a pound of milk increase, with the labor savings, energy savings, and a little bit of feed efficiency as well as less wasted feed. I think we're definitely on pace for that, if not a little bit better, because the milk production's up. The silos, we figured more of a closer to 12 to 15 year payback on those. Coupling them with the robots, they're saving labor, and with the feed shrink savings, we're expecting them to pay for themselves as well. They're kind of allowing the robots to operate to their best potential. Kind of all works together in one system pretty well. So we're really happy with how things seem to be working out after 1 year, and I think it's hopefully only going to get better as time goes on. I would expect there to be some increased maintenance costs as they start to age a little bit, but they're pretty simple machines. You know, I think the batteries, there's going to be wheels that need to be replaced, things like that. It's going to add some cost. We had more issues like right off the bat, and then once we got some of the bugs worked out, they've been more reliable. They're on 24/7, running all the time. It's almost better. The electronics are never off. Seems like there's almost less chance of issues when things are just running all the time versus, you know, letting them sit for 6 months like a tractor or combine or something. I like the simplicity of them, and I mean, it's a stainless steel tub, stainless steel auger. There's some galvanized parts on it as well, but it shouldn't corrode very quickly at all. It's not going to wear out. So one other issue that we did have, we had a feed delivery truck. He was just parked on the lane out here. He didn't run into it, but the one robot went out. It kind of caught the edge weird, and it made the bumper, bent this bumper out of place a little bit. Yeah, this is the one. So you can see I think that's from a pipe wrench. We were using to bend things straight. This was bent up. It was causing the collision sensor to go off because things were out of position. And we got it straightened out. It's been working fine, but that was a bit of a pain to get straightened out. One thing that still makes me a little bit nervous is just delivery trucks. If we could have designed this that delivery trucks would not have to even touch this concrete path, I don't know that would have been possible though for our situation here. So yeah, for me, yeah, silos have some inconvenient parts. I mean, it's a little bit nasty in these chutes sometimes, dusty, good amount of climbing, but we're getting high quality feed for the cows, and there's no daily loading or messing with it. It's loading itself in the mixer, so it's hard to beat. So here we are. So yeah, this is the winter forage. So I don't know, this stuff, we used to fill a smaller silo, did an ag bag, and then we considered putting a bunker silo in for it. Downside is with the amount that we're feeding, it would have to be a very narrow bunker silo. So we thought, well, we're either gonna stick with bags or build an upright for the robot. Got it in way too dry. Stuff's running well under 50% moisture right now, but it's still good clean feed. Packed it in real nice. So this will give us access to about 50 tons of silage when I drop this here. So you tell me if it's too much work. I mean, that job's pretty easy. Obviously, you gotta consider times I've had to climb up here to deal with issues. Yeah, the fan, these yellow jacket unloaders, they run the fan slower than some other brands, which helps them not to wear out as quickly. We did find that we need a little bit more speed for this dry winter forage. You just see there's fluffy stuff floating around in here, covering everything. But yeah, it's like bone dry. It's not spoiling. So it's good to knock this off here every once in a while. I'm happy with the yellow jacket unloaders. They seem to be quality. So that's the one we were just up in. Let me check the corn silage now. So this one I want to skip a door, so it has to be at the perfect spot. There's the bottom of that door. I actually don't know if it's quite ready to drop. It's nice to be able to skip a door. It saves climbing, but there's only a very short period of time. You know, once you can drop it, you basically need to be doing it that day or within a day or two, or else it'll start piling up. It'll not quite make it out that top door and plug up, which I did do a time or two. So I'm actually not going to do the silage today. That's enough climbing for one day. One thing I've said before with storing forages, there's just no perfect, convenient, cheap, fun way to do forage, in my opinion. Bunker silos are quicker, probably cheaper to fill. Sort of. You got to pack them and everything. It's not that much cheaper. And you can get feed out of them quicker, but you're going to have spoilage. There's a lot of manual labor too. Uprights, they got their downsides. Ag bags are good for feed quality, and they're flexible, but they have their downsides. They're not as fun to feed out of. And it's a lot of plastic and not a whole lot of fun. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Appreciate you watching. See you in the next one.